All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show. Special thanks to John Brady stopping in. Good to catch up with our guy. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button. Looking forward to this weekend because the best crew in television will be on the call for the SEC Network. On the ones and twos will be our guy Tommy Hart, and Jordan Rogers will be on the analyst. And then down on the sidelines, Cole Kubelik, who gets Tom, I was listening to you earlier this week on Cole and on Kubelik and Greg's show, and you're right, man. Cole's halftime interviews with the coaches, especially Nick Saban, he's able to pull quality information out. Usually these things are just kind of like pass bys where you're like, Coach, what do you think? How's the first half going? And they give you a bunch of coach speak. Kubelik's he's able to pull info out in real time, which you rarely see done. Best group in television. Tom, welcome in. Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm great. That's really nice of you to say. Yeah, it's interesting the way we do our job. I'm really lucky in that I work with two guys who both played in this league, and they watch a ton of film, a ton. So they come in educated, and if you're going to sit down with Nick Saban, he doesn't suffer fools. You've seen his press conference highlights or lowlights, so you better know what you're talking about. I think it was the first year the three of us had an Alabama game. We went in to meet with him on Friday afternoon, and he's, listen, a lot of these guys have tight schedules and they're busy and they carve out some time for us, which is very nice. But generally speaking, Mickey's longhand hits a number and their SID shuffles them out of the room. Well, next thing you know, we were talking to Saban about going from pro-style offense to spread. This was when Kiffin was there, and what they do inside the red zone. And my man gets up at the grease board and starts drawing up plays. And the poor SID is looking at his watch like, this is not good. I'm going to get my butt reamed because we're going to be late. And he couldn't pull him out of the room. Saban just wants to talk ball. And that's what makes Cole so good with him, because he knows that Cole knows the team, and he knows all these coaches know that those dudes do their homework. And instead of, hey, tell me about your philosophy about X, Y, Z. No, it's tell me about your philosophy of the X's and O's. Like, why do you run split zone like this? Why does that linebacker go into the A gap? Blah, blah, blah. Man, it's just good stuff. If you're a football nerd, there's a ton of it.
No doubt about it, man. I'm telling y'all, and I don't say this because y'all are acquaintances and friends, and when I see you, we catch up and we trade text messages in the season. Y'all are the A team on the SEC network. Like when this new contract comes down and ABC starts filming these games, starts airing these games, they won't have to look too far, in my opinion, to find the crew, because they got them right now in house. What do you think about Brian Kelly? Not the start he was looking for, obviously. But he'll have his home opener on Saturday night, a very historical game with Southern making a 10-mile bus ride across town to play the first SWAC opponent in Tiger Stadium. Tell me what you thought about LSU last week and what Brian Kelly faces this week going into home game one.
Well, I said this on Cole's show. Like, I don't think it could have gotten off to a worse start for Kelly. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be a failure by any stretch of the imagination. It was just a bad day. We all have bad days. It was a bad day. It was a bad day for Jaden Daniels. Bad day for special teams. The biggest issue, I think, from an outsider's point of view, is the lack of execution was something that you would have expected from the previous regime when things were going bad, right? Like, that was the biggest complaint. Well, they're disorganized. There's no execution. There's no communication. All of that looked like the accusations that were on the previous regime. And with, BK's personality and his persona, it's going to be buttoned up and everything's going to be nice and tight. And that was the farthest thing. But listen, he's one of the most accomplished coaches in college football. He's got the best winning percentage among all coaches right now. Guy's been to the playoff twice, played for a national championship another time. We know what the resume looks like. It's just a matter of getting the entire organization and everybody in that building up to speed for what he wants. And that's why I'm anxious to get in there and kind of see the operation of it all. And you learn a lot. To me,
Sure.
Game day is a snapshot. Obviously, that's what it's weighed on, but that's a snapshot of what happens throughout 7 days in the football building. Get a better feel for it once you get through those doors.
Jaden Daniels unfairly criticized, I thought, for Sunday night. I don't know how much more he could have done. What did you see from LSU's quarterback?
Well, I leave most of that up to my guy Jordan,
Yep.
and he's already broken down the film. And the first impression when we first talked was there are a lot of mistakes made at the quarterback position, from reads to takeoffs to where he's going with the ball. Maybe he shouldn't. I don't want to steal all of Jordan's thunder, but I think it's hard for us to judge quarterback play as viewers when we're just sitting there watching the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like take the slant in the end zone to Butte, right? But let's kind of, we'll dive into that Saturday night. But the way Jordan was breaking that down is that is a route that is run but never thrown to, based on the coverage and based on the formation and what's going on the other side of the field. Never thrown to. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll take Jordan's word for it, and he can go into more details about it. But unless you're a quarterback and you know the design of the play, or you're a coordinator, then it's hard to see, and it looks like a guy who didn't go for the football. So I don't know the ins and outs. I know he's got incredible athletic ability, and the opportunity to take off and use his legs is what makes it so appealing to have him back there. But I think everybody on that side of the ball needs to take a step up for LSU.
You have a lot of conversations and relationships around SEC towns. How much are coaches worried about the impact of NIL? People are looking at Keyshawn on Sunday and saying his offseason was full of contracts and money talk, and people are wondering if he's engaged and checked in. How much do people concern themselves with now about that aspect of the game now that NIL is here?
I think it's a fair discussion from our standpoint, those of us that are outside the building. I don't see it, and I haven't heard of it being that big a concern for people inside their respective buildings. Mm-hmm. Players have always had distractions. Might be one guy spends more time with his girlfriend or goes home every chance he can get to see his buddies from high school. Another guy's playing Xbox until 6 o'clock in the morning. There's always been and always will be distractions. I think what NIL brings with it is a little bit of jealousy. Like, oh, that guy's out doing this. Mm-hmm. I saw it firsthand. I was with Kentucky basketball. They played a preseason exhibition in the Bahamas.
You were there when Calipari made the comment.
Yes, yeah. That made it a little bit more interesting for sure. But Oscar Tshiebwe, as an international student, can only do his NIL work, his active NIL work, outside of the States. Wow. And they had a four-game series, and they had practice every day, and it was work. But he made over $500,000 in one day while he was down there. Oh. And the feedback that I got from other players was, man, go get yours. Like, we know that he's got to cram this stuff in right now. We know what his schedule is. We also know what his value is. The guy's going to make over $3 million this year as a National Player of the Year. Go get it. Yeah. Go get it. And I would hope that you would feel the same way about me if the roles were reversed. And I think that's the overriding theme to most of the NIL stuff. That doesn't mean there's not exceptions.
You had a front row seat to Alabama last weekend. A lot of people came away very impressed with Georgia's performance versus Oregon. Let's start with Bama. A lot of people are saying this is the year that Alabama was built for this national championship run. What did you see from them on Saturday night in a 55-0 win?
Well, Blake Anderson's Utah State head coach, and he was at Arkansas State before then, and he's been around. He's been in the game for a long time. They play at A-State. They play an SEC team just about every year. And he's got, he comes from that Baylor tree, played at Baylor for Grant Taft back in the 80s. And he said point blank, that's the best college football team I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God.
They are really, really good. And, Will Anderson is as smart as he is athletic. He's got an incredible motor. They're solid at every level on the defensive side. The one question was, did they have some wide receivers that were going to step up? And it looks like that core is in really good shape. But it's your quarterback. And Bryce Young is highly, highly intelligent. The processes that he goes through and his ability to take the snap, even when coverages change or roll on him, and process the information and make a decision in a split second is really what sets him apart. And, besides the fact that he's got great vision and a great arm and good wheels and all of that stuff, but Bill O'Brien, who not only was the head coach at Penn State, but the GM of the Texans and their head coach and worked for Bill Belichick, said he's the third smartest football player he's ever spent time with. Jeez. Tom Brady was number 1. Randy Moss is number 2. Bryce Young is number 3.
Not bad.
And that dude was in the NFL for a decade.
Yeah.
And on top of that, at a ton of other stops. So, yeah, they're awfully, awfully impressive. And it's hard to see any holes in any part of Alabama's game.
Georgia, Kirby Smart in the post-game press conference was speaking to offensive recruits after the offensive performance that the Dogs put in place on Saturday versus Oregon. How close is that part of the program now to the defense that he's going to roll out every Saturday?
Well, they've got to be better offensively this year because they're not going to have a record-setting elite defense like they did last year. I mean, that's just the facts. I mean, the draft day, every other pick was a guy on Georgia's defense, it seemed like. So they've got to be better, and they've got to be a little bit more explosive, and that's what they've been trying to be since Todd Monken got there. I think one thing that's overlooked by both coaches themselves, athletic directors, and folks who make these hires, and fans, is the move for a coordinator from the NFL to college is a pretty steep learning curve. And every time we sit down with a guy, and this is year in and year out, we'll go into a Friday meeting and sit down with a guy who was either coming from the NFL or had spent time in the NFL, and they go, man, I wasn't ready for this. And what this is the dynamic offenses and defenses that get rolled out in college football every week can have extreme variances. In the NFL, you really face one or two types of offenses, one or two types of defenses, and you might see the same type week in and week out. It's just a personnel difference. So that's that's a big change for these guys, and it really smacks them in the face come game week when they just went from no huddle spread to prepping for pro style. The next week there's an option team on the schedule. So that's a challenge, and I think it took Georgia a second to kind of get where they want to be from a tempo and a taking shots type of offense. But listen, Oregon's not a bunch of chumps, and that was as thorough a dressing down as we saw in week 1.
Billy Napier had a huge opening win for his time in Gainesville versus Utah on Saturday. He's got a quick turnaround here with a very just tough opponent in Kentucky. They've been very consistent over the last couple of years. This is the best game in conference on conference opponent. What did you make of Napier last weekend and the challenge he has ahead this weekend as Kentucky comes to Gainesville?
That quarterback, Anthony Richardson, was magnificent. It wasn't just a guy making plays with his legs. They had some plays drawn up that took advantage of what Utah was doing on the back end. They had one play where they just kind of flooded all the receivers to the right side against man coverage, and he took off and ripped off like a 70-yard run, and it was well designed and well executed, and he can make plays, man. He can. There's little Johnny Manziel in him, in that when you think a play is dead, he can spin out of there, and he has the skills and the vision to turn it into something really, really big. I thought that was Would Georgia probably be in 1B? I'd put that at 1A, the most impressive win opening week for the SEC, because what it means long term. I mean, the two Pac-12 favorites both lose. It's going to be hard for them then to bounce back and make it into the playoff. Utah is a really good team. I saw them in person at the Rose Bowl last year. Well coached, great quarterback, lots of weapons. It didn't seem to matter. That was a great momentum win for Florida. And personally, I think they keep it going. Kentucky is a solid program, but not only are they without Chris Rodriguez, but another running back took a hit and is out with an ACL. They just don't have the depth in the backfield that I think they're going to need for 4 quarters against Florida. They've got good receivers. Dane Key is a new guy, freshman, Lexington kid who's really good and going to be in the NFL in a couple of years. And Will Levis is a really good quarterback. I'm not necessarily buying like a first-round NFL pick, but maybe he gets there. And I just think that Florida, this is a sport of momentum, and Florida's got a ton of it. And Kentucky, despite the fact that they had a good win week 1, is walking into a Bears den once again. They do not typically win games in Gainesville.
How big of a spot is this for Heupel in Tennessee this weekend going into Pittsburgh? Is this a big spot for them?
Yeah, it's huge, especially considering, the crowd that Pittsburgh played in front of week 1 and what they'll have week 2. That was the largest crowd for the Backyard Brawl to ever see a sporting event in the city of Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Think about that. The largest crowd ever. Steelers, their runs, same stadium, at whatever they're calling Heinz Field these days. So there's a lot of excitement behind that program. The challenge for Heupel and company is going to be that Pitt has now faced this offense each of the last 4 years. They saw it when Heupel was at UCF. They saw Hooker when he was at Virginia Tech. They played on last year in Knoxville. They won't be surprised by anything Tennessee is doing or trying to do. And then the second challenge is where Tennessee needs to improve is getting pressure on the quarterback, especially when they can do it by only bringing 4. And they didn't have a single sack against Ball State. Now, they pressured the quarterback a couple times. Ball State first play of the game ran a reverse flea flicker against the blitz, probably not exactly how you want to draw it up. And they were able to get a hit on the quarterback that forced an interception. But outside of that play, they really didn't get to him very much. And that's where Tennessee needs to improve defensively.
Tom, when do you arrive? When do you get into Baton Rouge?
I'll be there this afternoon.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. This is cool, right? I mean, this will be I know this is not SEC, football, but this will be a cool historical game that, I think LSU will always have that they can look back on, and it's got to be a cool moment for you and your team to be on the call.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. We're trying to find a way. I don't want to diminish the Southern football program with this next statement, so please don't even take it that way. But we're trying to find a way that we can shift some of our resources and our timing and really feature the band and halftime and what that's going to look like, because I think that's a really, really cool part of it. And football viewers love the game. This is an aspect of the presentation that they don't normally see. It's not Battle of the Bands where we're just going to have the ability to air the entire thing. But I'm really excited to see that. I'm not going to leave my seat for halftime. I want to see what it looks like. But, yeah, for the first meeting ever, for teams that are schools that are neighbors but in different neighborhoods, it's really cool. If you don't like the history of college football, then you're missing a major part of the draw of the sport. Mm-hmm. And it's very rare that you get to see a first-time event in college football in 2022. And that's cool that we get to see it and be there for it.
Dude, control your dog.
Yeah,
for
Tom,
God's
what's
sakes.
going on with your dog?
It's out of control.
What's
totally
the deal,
out of
dude?
It ate my golf shoes.
Well, I'm not concerned about the golf shoes as much as it's murdering animals.
Well, listen, I really miss my golf shoes. They were really good shoes. Like, kill the rabbits, all right? I like, whatever. Put them in a pot and boil them, Glenn Close style. I don't care. But bring my shoes back. Like, rabbits are going to reproduce. There'll be plenty of bunnies hopping around the yard in another 3 weeks. Nike's not just going to drop off another pair of Air Max golf shoes just because they do.
Now I'm on your side. Yeah.
Have a safe trip to Baton Rouge, buddy. Control your dog. We'll talk to you soon.
I'll do my best. Thanks, fellas.
There he is. Tommy Hart checking in. He'll be on the call on Saturday for LSU-Southern. There was a nice in-depth look at the weekend, the SEC. Tigers and Jaguars going to kick off at 6:30 on the SEC Network officially on Saturday night. We appreciate catching up with Tom Hart. That's no BS either, man. I really believe that Tom Hart, Cole Kubelik, and Jordan Rogers they're the best team of calling college football. And to me, Cole Kubelik is the best of analyzing the game, and a lot about what just Hart talked about of, his ability to kind of, get ground level with guys like Nick Saban and, talk football where they respect what he's saying and they're kind of, not listening, but, kind of going back and forth with him. And if you watch his halftime interviews or his in-game interviews with coaches, a lot of times, I'm not saying every time, but a lot of times in those instances, the networks just want the soundbite. Like, let's go down to Brian Kelly before kickoff. He's standing by with our sideline correspondent. Let's go down to whoever it is. Coach, how's your team feeling tonight? Well, they're feeling great. We're glad to be here. Let's kick this thing off. Where Cole go in and be like, pregame you were talking about how you want to stop the run. You shade over. You got this guy. I mean, there's a much more in-depth look. And if that's not your thing, I get it. But he's able to pull some real-time information out of these guys who want to stay so locked and guarded during that time. He's able to kind of break them down a little bit. And, for that reason alone, I think he's a must-listen when he's calling a game. And his radio show's fantastic over in Birmingham with Greg McElroy. But when those three are on the call, you usually learn something about the sport. You definitely learn something about the team that you follow, because no matter if it's Southern or LSU this weekend, you're going to learn something about those two teams because they're doing their homework. They're going to do the interviews. They're going to talk to the coaches. They're going to talk to the players. They're going to get something that we don't know, and they're going to tell you about it during that broadcast. And if you're paying attention, I love listening to them.
I'm interested. What a tease! But the Jaden Daniels, Keyshawn Booty throw where he wasn't going to tell us because I guess they're saving it for the broadcast. But it's always interesting to get a quarterback's perspective on what and he knows so much about play design and what they're actually supposed to do, I guess, or what reads are there. That thought never crossed my mind that Booty is just there for show essentially,
like a decoy,
right?
Kind of.
But it
is amazing. The Florida State fans are still on social media tweeting at me.
Oh my goodness,
it's unreal.
I mean,
man, the YouTube. I get notifications for comments and such, and it's all Florida State. We're their favorite show.
I know. I love that. I love that. Y'all are great for the algo.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't won in a while.
Sunshine
it's been
Scooter.
a long time. 90s feel like 50 years ago. In Tallahassee.
Cowboys fans.
Right. We won in 2013. Yeah, then Jimbo told you y'all were cheap. Left.
They
didn't want to spend any money.
Yeah, they went to the richest team in the country.
Right. They came to the SEC where everybody's winning. We beat you in the regular season. Cool. Take it.
Yeah.
We'll talk at the end of the year. All right, Zach Ewing from The Advocate's going to come by here at 8:45. We'll get his Caesars picks for the weekend. We're watching the NFL. We didn't mention it. The NFL kicks off tonight. Football is here.
Buffalo and
Buffalo's in L.A.
Oh,
L.A.'s a home underdog as a Super Bowl defending champ, giving 2.5 to Buffalo. Carpool Queen is here. We will reset the set.
Is that Bobby Wagner?
Bobby Wagner, who? Los Angeles?
no,
The Rams.
Yeah, they do have Bobby Wagner.
Sweet.
Wow.
Bobby Wagner.
Trade Von Miller for Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, and Von Miller's on Buffalo.
I know.
Yeah, I'll take it.
What a game!
This is gonna be a great game.
God. Have you
Caesars
seen all of
Sportsbook has 2.5.
All of the week one, the NFL week one slate is unbelievable. We have all the spreads in the graphic. I mean, in the document for when Ewing comes on, so we can get a little whoop around of what games maybe we like, don't like, what he likes. That's probably, I don't know. I'll probably go with his picks over mine.
For
fade
sure.
him.
Remember, download the Caesars Sportsbook app. You see the QR code in the top right of the screen. walk your camera up to it, download the app, or just go to the App Store, download it. Use the promo code JCLSUFull, JCLSUFull, to save yourself, to bet up to $1,250 risk-free from our friends over at Caesars Sportsbook. We'll tell you about the NFL spreads. We'll tell you about more when we come back here. Jordy, Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.